Breaking news now. There were protests and some boos when Anna Netrebko returned to Berlin. Still under fire for her prior support of President Vladimir V Putin of Russia, the Russian star soprano performed in her first staged opera in Germany since the invasion of the Ukraine. The Berlin State Opera's production of Verdi's Macbeth opens with a scene of a burning battlefield, with Lady Macbeth slowly making her way across it while carrying a sword. On Friday night at the State Opera, Russian soprano Anna Netrebko portrayed the role, and the scene was a surreal depiction of a strong woman trying to navigate a world at war. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, one of opera's biggest stars, Anna Netrebko, has come under fire from the West for her long history of support for President Vladimir V Putin. On Friday, however, she made her long-awaited return to Germany's major cultural institutions by performing in a staged opera for the first time since the war's outbreak. In spite of opposition from political leaders and loud, angry protests outside the opera house that persisted until the very end of the performance, including rounds of chants that her appearance was Schande, a disgrace, she received a standing ovation at her curtain call. After both parts of her opening aria, there was a mixture of applause and isolated, loud, sustained boos from the audience inside. She responded by walking out of character and standing in the middle of the stage, arms folded, lips pursed, and blowing kisses to the conductor and the orchestra. Due to her muddled signals following the Russian invasion in February 2022, Netrebko's performances were temporarily cancelled. After she publicly opposed the war but refused to denounce Putin in March of that year, the Metropolitan Opera terminated her contracts. Netrebko filed suit against the Met last month for discrimination, defamation, and breach of contract. She had been absent from the stage for over a year and a half, but has recently made her way back to the Vienna State Opera, the Paris Opera, and the Teatro alla Scala in Milan. There have been both protests, mostly outside, and applause, mostly inside, as a result. However, Berlin is a center of pro-Ukraine activism. As a result, she has been under close scrutiny for her performance at the State Opera, where she has been booked for 4 shows of Macbeth, through this coming Saturday. Matthias Schultz, the company's general director, admitted in an interview, "It's a difficult decision, of course." His additional comment was, "I'm still absolutely behind that decision." She distanced herself from Putin, even if she stopped far short of criticizing him, he and Netrebko's other defenders argue, and her statement was sufficiently clear. She used the word war, Schultz said, and she used the words against Ukraine. It is said that Netrebko, her family, and friends, especially those still in Russia, would be in danger if she were to voice such direct criticism to Russia's authoritarian government. Netrebko is a Russian and Austrian citizen and currently resides in Vienna. Schultz emphasized that she has not done anything suspicious since the war broke out. She did not stay in Russia like other artists she admired, such as conductor Valery Gergiev, her mentor, nor has she ever performed there again. Although the Greek-Russian conductor Theodore Kourontsis has not commented publicly on the conflict, he has faced criticism for accepting funding from a Russian bank that has been blacklisted by the West. Supporters of Netrebko stress the importance of not generalizing all Russian artists as bad and giving Putin more ammunition to say the West is inherently anti-Russian. It's true that not every Russian artist deserves to be criticized, but that doesn't mean none do. When compared to other Russian musicians who have condemned the war, Netrebko's case stands out because of her celebrity status and her well-documented history of praise for and recognition from Putin. Nonetheless, she has taken the role of victim throughout. Schultz remarked, "She has no idea why she has to take the blame for this." According to Netrebko, she is unfairly being blamed for her actions prior to the war, when compared to, for example, political leaders in Germany and elsewhere who did business with Putin. Russian anti-gay laws and the annexation of Crimea led to years of protests against the Met and other organizations for working with her and Gergiev. However, many of those individuals and organizations have since admitted error. Netrebko has not apologized for her support of Putin or for donating to an opera house in Donetsk, a Ukrainian city controlled by Russian separatists, where she was photographed holding a separatist flag in 2014. And just like before the invasion, Netrebko has continued her pre-war parade of expensive meals, designer clothes, and family vacations on her social media accounts. Yes, I think she was politically naive or stupid in the past, Schultz admitted. Is this, however, reason enough to rule out your ever performing as a singer again? However, Netrebko is not entitled to a spot in the spotlight. Her artistic prowess is impressive even now. Her instantly recognizable, seductively dark and heavy sound, with its slightly, excitingly breathless quality, is still there for a listener who hasn't heard her live since before the pandemic. Even though the top of her range is now more effortful and less powerful, she still clearly enjoys playing Lady Macbeth and all the machinations and chesty exclamations that come with the character. The final sleepwalking scene is impressive rather than unforgettable because her soft singing lacks its old floating presence. The road ahead for her is unclear. Pressure keeps leading to the cancellation of some of her shows, the latest being a concert scheduled for next month in Prague. In a text message, Serge Dorny of the Bavarian State Opera in Munich said there were no current plans for her to appear there and declined to comment further. However, she plans to visit Vienna, Milan, and Paris again in the near future. Oliver Mears, the artistic director of the Royal Opera in London, has cast her as the title character in Ponchielli's La Gioconda, which will be performed at the Salzburg Easter Festival in the early spring of 2019. Mears, when asked if she would ever return to London, said, "At the beginning of the war, things were very raw," before adding, "Never say never." When asked about the significance of time, Easter Festival director Nikolaus Bachler said, "The passage of time always has a big meaning." In these extreme cases, the situation takes on a Rorschach quality. You could interpret Netrebko's decision to perform at the obviously pro-Ukraine Berlin State Opera, where Macbeth is being staged, as a kind of covert admission of feelings she cannot openly express because of the opera's depiction of the destruction caused by war. If you're going to argue against her, remember that all she's doing is taking the company and Verdi's good name for her own gain. The battle lines have been drawn, and like everything else in American politics, they refuse to budge. It is what it is, as Macbeth says in the opera. The only people who truly care about what will be said about Netrebko in her obituaries are Netrebko, her conscience, and her future self. The epitaph, "She did the bare minimum," does not exactly do her or her supporters justice, nor can anyone deny that she displayed courage. Schultz said, "She is no Marlene Dietrich," referring to the German actress who gave up her German citizenship in 1939 and spent World War II serving as a USO morale booster, for which she was awarded the Medal of Freedom. And for that, she will receive no commendation.